15 years I spent serving my queen, and the first pint I'm faced with is German. German beer? Thought the barmaid was mugging me off at first, but no, it's beer. It comes from Germany. And to add insult to injury, it cost me a Lady Godiva. Absolute liberty is what I say. I don't want German beer coursing through my veins. Oh, sorry, how remiss of me. I haven't formally introduced myself yet. My name is Harry, respectfully known as Cat A, Harry. And when I mentioned that I've been serving the Queen, I forgot to mention that it was at her leisure. Just done a 15 stretch, haven't I? Got released yesterday. Yeah, Cat A, Harry, that's me. None of your Ponzi Cat B or C, always high security for old Harry. Let me tell you a little bit about myself, if I may. I was proudly conceived on the steps of the Bow Bells. My mum and dad had a little bit of a knee trembler there, so you can't get more cockney than me. I'm like a dinosaur, you see. Dinosaur is about to become extinct. I'm sorry, I do ramble on sometimes. Please, let me explain. I'm what you call a career criminal, which, in layman's terms, and for the uneducated amongst you, means that I've made a living out of crime. I've been highly successful over the years, liberating people from their hard-earned money and property. People like you. Do I have any guilt? Nah. It's a living. What has happened to this place? This used to be my local back in the day. Just a 5-year-old nipper when I first stepped into here. My dad was knocking off the landlady, you see. Well, an ugly old sort she was, too. When she walked into the room, the mice jumped onto the chairs. And come Christmas time, they hung her up on the ceiling and kissed the mistletoe. I think you're getting the picture. I told my mother 20 years later about Dad's affair. She didn't take it too well. She got a gun and she shot him right between the eyes. He's still buried in our garden to this day. Shh. A little secret. He wasn't really missed. In hindsight, I should have kept my mouth shut. Anyway, back to the landlady. She was ugly, but hard as nails. No messing about with her. If you gave her any grief, you went out the door in instalments. Good old Gladys. Yeah, a right spitting sawdust pub this used to be. Full of decent, dishonest people. You show them respect, they would literally give you the shirt off their back. Yeah, some great characters back then. Salt of the earth. And another thing, you've always got a good, decent pint in here too. None of this German shite. Pint and mild was my drink of choice. Only took me about 5 pints to get pissed. I was only 5, remember? If there was any trouble, it would always be sorted out with a straightener. No guns or knives in those days. Well, not many anyway. And after the straightener, they would always shake hands and have a beer together. It's all about respect. Something severely missing these days. I had my share of fights here too. Never lost. Highly skilled I am. Self-taught. Yeah, people soon realise that Harry is not a man to be messed with. And there was always someone selling knock-off stuff. Every Sunday, guaranteed, I would leave here with a nice, big, juicy steak. Pack of tights for me mum, a bag of batteries, all just for a few bob. Where did it all go wrong, eh? I mean, look at this place now. All posh and gentrified and full to the brim with pretentious twats. No character. Real shame. These kids, they don't know they've been born. Never had to suffer the hardships of my generation. I used to share a room with 4 other siblings who were all older than me, so I was definitely bottom of the food chain. There was no central heating in them days. Winters were bleak. Global warming didn't exist then. They were proper Arctic cold. If you wanted a bath, you had to get in a tin tub in front of the coal fire. And the only entertainment we had was a radio. If you were really privileged or lucky, you would have a television set. We were the latter. My dad was lucky enough to find one hanging off the back of a lorry. It was only black and white. It was a bastard if you were watching the snooker. Colour TVs were hard to come by, even for the criminal fraternity. Proper hardships. And what do kids do today? If they're not stabbing or shooting each other or popping pills, they're stuck in their bedrooms on their AYZ boxes or whatever they're called. No discipline. Bring back national service, that's what I say. I was a good, honest thief. Got the job done, never hurt anyone. Not like today. They'd slice you up in the blink of an eye these days. Yeah, I might have relieved you of your worldly goods, but I never hurt anybody, and I only caused the minimal damage possible. I only carried a tool for breaking windows or jemmying doors, for God's sake. Oh, and just for the record, I've been in this game over 40 years and I've never known anyone to pick a lock. That is a myth. I always worked alone. It was the best way, the only way. No one else needed to know. And I did a job I told no one. No one except my wives, of course. They say behind every good thief there's a good, strong, loyal wife. Never a truer statement. I was so lucky. All my wives were extremely loyal to me. All 8 of them. And may they all rest in peace. Oh, and another myth I'd like to dispel. There's honour amongst thieves. Is there shite? Do you know how many police informers and grasses there are? Believe me when I tell you, a shitload. That's why I always work alone. These grasses. They'd sell your soul for a 20 spot in the back pocket and a pat on the back from the cozzers. £20 to sell your mates out. What would that get you? A few nights out and a trip to the picture house with the missus? Oh, it would back then. Yeah, I hate police snouts. I was always caught by good, honest coppering. I was a good thief, until I was caught. And as I always say, if you can't do the time, don't do the crime. Right, here we go then. Any port in a storm. Well, actually, that's not a bad pint. Well done, the Germans, that's what I say. Anyway, where was I? Oh, yes. My last job was a jeweller's in the Stretford High Street. I planned it meticulously. Anyway, the job was going well till I bailed over the back wall right into the hands of a copper who just happened to be taking a piss in the back alley. He was just as shocked as me. He actually put me in handcuffs with his old boy still hanging out, bless him. Oh, now, don't get me wrong. I'm a master of many martial arts. Self-taught, but I have this golden rule. I never fight with the cozzers. A, because they're just doing a job and it's nothing personal, and if there was no cops and robbers there would be no films. B, if you did hit one, that would put an extra 2 years on your sentence. Nah, I believe in standards. I'm an honourable thief. And C, he was built like a brick shithouse and I didn't fancy my chances. So, that was it. Caught red-handed with a bag full of loot. Bang to rights, as they say. So, I was taken to the factory, booked in, had me drum spun, and then remanded in custody till my day out at the big house. I always plead guilty if I'm caught bang to rights, but it depends on the judge what sort of sentence you get. My court date eventually arrived. Court number 1 at the Old Bailey. Only the best for Cat A Harry. But I was shit out of luck. Judge Wickham was presiding. Wickham was affectionately known as Whackham Wickham due to his hatred of villains. Well, he loved the police. They were never wrong in his eyes. Anyway, before he sentenced me, he decided to tell me what he thought of me. His face was red, his veins were bulging. I honestly thought he was going to burst a blood vessel. It didn't help when I told him to calm down and keep his wig on. Hence the 15-year sentence. Was it worth it? Damn right it was. Well, that was that. I was sent straight to Wandsworth Prison. I've served there before, so I knew most of the screws and the lifers. As you are aware by now, on the outside I am an honourable, non-violent villain. But on the inside, you'll find me a totally different character. I am Cat A Harry. Highly respected throughout the whole prison fraternity. Harry is a face everywhere. I have a reputation, you see. In prison, it's either fight or flight. You either become someone's bitch or you stand your ground. It's not easy, I can tell you. You have to break a few heads along the way to get the respect I have. I'm like Noah parting the Red Sea. Every time I walk into the room, people part and get out of my way. That's the sort of power I hold. I can walk into a shower room, head held high and proud. No chance of Harry getting bent over and popped a new one by some 25 stoner. My arse is exit only. I've done bird at Wandsworth many times, so as per, I was running my wing again within 2 weeks. I am what you might call a daddy. All money-making enterprises had to run through me. I made sure I got my little cut of the action. I provided the security, so everyone was happy. It's amazing what you can make money on in prison. Anything from drugs to women's bras. And yes, there was many a bra worn in prison, I can tell you. The screws knew what was going on, but they always turned a blind eye. They respected me that much. Anyway, if you ever find yourself doing a bit of bird, always try and get yourself a good job. They let me run the kitchen. Apart from the library, that was the top job. I had the power to decide if you got that extra sausage or not. An extra sausage for an ounce of Old Holborn? Not bad. I made a fortune out of selling that snout. That's how I started my prison empire. The screws had the utmost respect for me. Some would even ask me for my advice, or for a favour. That takes me back to '93. I was doing a bit of bird in Broadmoor at the time. Don't ask. I was going through my mental phase at the time. Anyway, as you know, Broadmoor houses some of the maddest, baddest bastards on the planet. The Yorkshire Ripper, Ian Brady, to name just a few. I'd only been there a week when the prison governor summoned me to his office. They must have a problem for old Harry to sort out. That's what happened in other prisons. Whenever I was summoned to see the head man, there was usually a problem they wanted me to sort out. I was right. Apparently, Ronnie Kray had become increasingly more fractious of late. Yes, that Ronnie, of Kray twins notoriety. The warders were worried and wanted to find out what was going on. As per, old Harry was conveniently moved into the room next to Ronnie's to try and sort the problem out. I'd never met Ronnie, but I knew he was trouble. Anyway, I'd only been in my new room a few minutes when Ronnie walked in. He just stands there staring at me through psycho eyes, his face all crunched up in one big, aggressive scowl. After a few seconds, he rushes towards me. I quickly stand up and cut him off in his tracks. I raise my hand and I shout, "Now wind your neck in, Ronnie, or I'll bitch slap you." He stops, all taken aback. No one's ever spoken to him like that before. He then sits down, a broken man, and mutters, "Sorry, K.A. Harry." Now there's respect for you. Even Ronnie Kray knows my name. Well, that broke the ice, and we became great friends. We'd play chess to the early hours. He wasn't bad, but not as good as me. I'm a former world champion. Anyway, after a few days with Ronnie, I soon found out what was bugging him. Apparently, 2 other inmates have been interfering with Ronnie's outside interests. Now, I can't say other than that. Unfortunately, these weren't normal inmates. They were the notorious Jeff Cudd and his beast of an associate known only as the Donk. Now these 2 are top drawer bad bastards. They run a video empire in South East London. They never got any bother from the Met Police as they supplied half of them with porno films. Now these 2 were proper hard villains. Jeff Cudd had this 70s porn star moustache and always wore a full-length Crombie jacket and walked with a swagger. Ah, yes, he had all the moves. The Donk, on the other hand, was the muscle. He was that hard that if he watched paint dry, the paint would dry quicker just so he'd fuck off. He was the assassin. If anyone got in their way, he'd shoot them. The rumour was that before he shot you, you had to provide 2 forms of ID with your name and address on. Once he verified who you were, he'd blow your head off. Is that class or what? Well, I couldn't have these 2 clowns upsetting my Ronnie, so I decided to have a little chat with them. I stormed into their room. They were both sitting down playing cards. They must have been playing strip poker, because the Donk was dressed in stockings and suspenders. Yeah, it was a camera moment. On seeing me, the Donk jumped up and ran towards me. A good hearty kick to his Jacobs soon put a stop to his little adventures. He hit the floor like a sack of King Edward's. Before Mr. Cudd had a chance to react, I performed a perfectly executed spinning back kick. My foot glanced beautifully off his bushy moustache. Both were now successfully incapacitated. I shouted, "Do not be bothering Ronnie again. Do you understand? If you do, I'll be back." Well, and that was the end of Ronnie's little problem. They never bothered him again. Good memories. Look at this. just before he passed away, Ronnie sent me this letter thanking me. Yeah, look, there, see? You can see his name. Yeah, no one messes with Cat A. Harry. Hello, Mother. I've just realised what time it is. I'm sorry I'm late, Mother. Yes, I made my bed before I went out. Yes, I have put a clean pair of underpants on. Yes, the right ones. The ones with Sunday written in them. I've just been talking. No, I haven't been telling fibs again. Yes, I've got your ties and I've got the steak. I had to go to Home and Bargains to get the batteries because the pound shop had sold out. And okay, Mother, I'm on my way home now. Good talking to you all. And remember, if you approach me from behind, make sure I can hear you. And you're waving a white flag. I'm Cat A. Harry. Got it?